Welcome back to Outriders. In this video we are going through the absolute best build for all classes in the New Horizon update. So we're going to start off with my current build for my Devastator, which is the main character I play with. I pretty much don't touch any other character in this game. So jumping into the inventory screen, I run the Voodoo Matchmaker, then I have a random purple SMG, and then I have the Disintegrator. Over on the right hand side for my gear, I've got a level 50 purple mask. Then I have a purple upper armour. Then I run Seismic Commander's legs, Seismic Commander's gloves, and Seismic Commander's foot gear. So with the Voodoo Matchmaker, I'm just going to leave these on screen for a moment so you can check out the mods and stuff if you want to. But I don't even touch this gun. I don't use it when I'm running expeditions. Then with the purple, you might want to pause it because I might not be on a certain piece of gear long enough for you to check everything out. But this purple SMG, I don't touch. This Disintegrator is the only weapon I use. It has weapon life leech, close range damage and healing received. Strings of Gorse, shots link up to 5 enemies in a 10 meter radius of the target and deal 207,000 electric damage to each of them. That happens every 2 seconds. And then with Claymore Torrent, shots damage 4 enemies within a 6 meter radius with anomaly blades, dealing 207,000 damage. That also happens every 2 seconds. If you look at the reload, it's 1.6 seconds. So all I do with this, it has a 6 clip mag. I shoot all 6 bullets, I reload, I shoot all 6 bullets, that's all I do. That deals a decent amount of damage. Over here on the right hand side, with my purple piece of headgear, I've got Bloodshock and Not Impressed. Then moving down to my upper armour, I have Earth's Legacy and Even Odds. Then moving down to the Seismic Commander's leg armour, Tainted Blood, Power Assimilation. Then moving down to the Seismic Commander's gloves, Asunder and Ground Crush. Then we move down to the foot gear, Second Quake and Extra Quake. So those allow me to run Earthquake 3 times. A tier 3 and a tier 1 mod. Then if we bump it over to the skills, I run Earthquake, Golem and Gravity Leap. I use Gravity Leap to get to hard to reach places if there's enemies up top or something like that and you're on a lower level, or the other way round. Golem just to protect myself in case I take a lot of damage. Earthquake because it deals a decent amount of damage, it stuns the enemies, and I've got 3 charges with it because of the way I've got my build set up. And then bumper over to the class nodes and I run Bottom Tree. So that is my current Devastator build, and I've had a lot of people ask me to show this. The reason I'm not going into depth with it, and I just briefly left each of the pieces of gear there for you to see, just to see if you like them, is because the best possible build you can run for any class in this game is called the DIY build. You do it yourself. With games like Outriders, The Division 2, as they get older, and there's not a lot of content coming in, there's not as much hype around the game, you barely see videos besides builds. They are the longest lasting form of videos that people make. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. Make whatever videos you want, it's your content that you're creating. But for the amount of builds that are out there, it's ridiculous. If you go and do a YouTube search for Outriders build and you filter it to builds this week or videos this week, you're going to see a lot of builds. 1.5 million damage Devastator build, 1.7 million damage. Do this, do that, Trickster, Techno, Pyro, Devastator. It's build after build after build after build. And the same thing happened with the Division 2. It happens with lots of other games. But that's why I strongly recommend putting your own builds together. You can see, I'm just running my Disintegrator and using my skills when I need to. I have mods that I enjoy playing with. If it was the case of this game still having the timers on the expeditions, I wouldn't be putting this video out. I only put these videos out and I say make your own builds and stuff when there is no need to go for this top of the range high end build that's going to clear tier 15 quicker than you can say tier 15. We no longer have a timer on these expeditions. You can take as long as you need to, so you can run any build in this game. I would recommend personally you go with a survivability build, because for those of you that are struggling to pass certain tiers, say for an example you personally are stuck on tier 12 because you're not surviving long enough, you're dealing good damage but your survivability sucks, switch out some of that damage and put some survivability into your build. Because it doesn't matter if you're sat there for an hour and a half doing one of these expeditions, like obviously if you have that sort of time, but it doesn't matter how long you take anymore, it's simply about completion. So you can jump into Archways of Enoch on tier 12 like I'm playing right now. Say you're stuck on tier 12, you can jump in, take even 4 or 5 hours. As long as you get it complete, you will progress a tier. It's no longer based on time, so you don't need to have this perfect build. And I'm pretty sure they're never going to go back on removing the timer. The timer will stay out of the game forever. So when the Worldslayer expansion drops in 2022, you don't have to have this crazy build that's putting out like 2.5 million DPS. It doesn't need to be like that anymore. So I say, find your own build, something you are personally comfortable with. If you want to be a healer, if you want to be a tank, if you want to be DPS, if you want to just deal damage for a specific element, like you want to be a fire dealer, like running the pyro or something like that. If you want to just inflict bleed when you're shooting enemies, if you want to run toxic, do whatever you want that you're comfortable with if you want to follow builds on YouTube. I'm not saying don't, I'm just saying there are so many builds, but the best one is the one that you create. Make sure you're comfortable with your build. Don't just rely on YouTubers for build videos. There are so many of them on the platform. And it gets a little bit irritating to see because the way YouTube works, it just, I don't even know how to explain it, but basically you filter, and because there are so many people covering these builds, if you're looking for tips, if you're looking for knowledge, info, like update news and stuff, you're not going to find it that easy because the build videos are so oversaturated. So my personal recommendation is to run a build you are comfortable with, no matter what it is, but don't rely on YouTuber builds. You don't need to have these huge amounts of damage outgoing to the enemies because there's no timer involved anymore. And ignore what everyone says. There's probably going to be a comment or two on this video saying, oh, you're running tier 12, how can you give like info? How can you give people tips when you don't even run the highest tier? I don't need to run tier 15. I've done it all. I've got gold times on every expedition before the timers were removed. I've completed all of that. I run level 50 gear. I just sit there and play. Like on the Division 2, I had someone question why I have my global difficulty on normal. I've done everything in these games. I don't need to do it anymore. So to make my content easier to make, I run a lower tier. I run a lower difficulty. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I enjoy it. But if you're struggling with the tiers, take your time. Change your build up. Don't just go for DPS. Put some survivability on, put some healing on and do some matchmaking. It's all about just progress in the game. You don't have to have the best of everything. You don't need to do the hardest stuff in the game. Just enjoy it for what it is. Even if you put the most hybrid build together. If you're playing the Division 2 and you're putting stupid fucking rainbow builds together. Just make a build you're comfortable with and just run it. See how it goes. Switch it up. If you don't need as much survivability, say you've put together, I don't know, for pure example, you've got a build that has 1 million armor, and you don't need that much, you're barely going below like 20,000 health or something like that, then lower your survivability and replace it for a bit of damage. Do some messing around with it, because not only that, it's going to give you more playtime in the game, you're going to enjoy yourself more, you've got something to do, and at the end of the day, when you have perfected your own personal build, you're going to be happy. You're going to feel like you've accomplished something for yourself. I'm not actually going to finish this expedition. I was purely just putting the video together and giving you an example. And I run tier 12 because if I was running tier 15, it would be a lot more concentrating. Whereas tier 12, I can easily kill the enemies. Another good thing about running my pistol is I don't ever have to grab ammo. But I was running tier 12 because that way I don't need to concentrate on the gameplay, I can focus on the commentary. And what we are going to do is wrap the video up there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.